Near Agra, in a place called Sikandra, there's this absolutely magnificent monument to one of India's greatest emperors, Akbar the Great. But here's the thing, his tomb holds a secret. It's this deep, unsettling emptiness that doesn't feel like reverence at all. It feels like, well, like something violent happened here. So let's get into the story behind it.
This quote from someone who visited recently just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures that strange vibe you get inside. It's a feeling that tells you, something's not quite right. This isn't just a tomb anymore. It feels more like a scene. But a scene of what? That's the mystery we're going to solve.
So this is the big question, isn't it? Why would an emperor, with just immense power, unbelievable wealth, and this incredible vision, a guy who basically reshaped a subcontinent, end up in a chamber that feels so stark and forgotten? The answer is probably not what you're thinking.
Okay, so picture this. To get to the emperor's crypt, you have to walk down this long, narrow passage that just keeps sloping downward. And then it opens up into this huge, cavernous room. The ceiling is soaring stories above you, but the space itself, it's dark, it's hollow, and there's almost no decoration. For one of the most powerful rulers in the world, yeah, this shocking simplicity just doesn't add up at all.
To even begin to understand the mystery of the tomb, you first have to understand the man himself. See, Akbar wasn't just some conqueror. He was a philosopher king. He was absolutely fascinated by religion and culture. He spent his entire reign trying to weave all these diverse threads of his empire, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jain, into one single unified fabric.
The key word, the idea behind everything, is syncretism. And for Akbar, this wasn't just some clever political strategy. No, this was his core philosophy. He truly believed in finding common ground, in creating harmony out of all that diversity. This idea was the driving force behind his entire rule.
And here is the crucial point. The tomb we see today, he designed it himself. He started it during his own lifetime. It was supposed to be his final, lasting statement. A monument not just to him, but to this ideal of unity he cared so much about. He wanted his final resting place to literally embody the spirit of his reign.
So to really get the tragedy of what happened inside that empty room, we have to look at the spectacular vision for the outside. What Akbar planned was nothing short of a symphony in stone, a true masterpiece of this blended, syncretic architecture.
I mean, the whole complex is just a perfect example of Mughal grandeur. It's built with this rich red sandstone, inlaid with brilliant white marble, and it's all set inside this massive, peaceful garden. The gateway alone is a work of art, with 4 towering minarets, a design feature that would later be perfected, at the Taj Mahal.
But the main building, the mausoleum itself, is where things get really interesting. Instead of a traditional dome, Akbar designed a 5-tiered pyramid. This was a completely radical move. I mean, a bold architectural experiment that nobody was really doing at the time.
And you can really see his experimental spirit right here. Look at this comparison. On one side, you've got the traditional 9-fold plan. That's the perfectly symmetrical blueprint for most of the great Mughal tombs. Well, Akbar basically threw that rulebook out the window. He wanted something new, something entirely his own.
And the details on the tomb? Oh, it's just this incredible fusion of styles from all over the world. You've got Islamic geometric patterns right next to Hindu carvings, you see Buddhist symbols, and you even find Gothic arches that look like something out of a European church. It was his philosophy of syncretism made real.
So we have this grand vision of unity, right? This magnificent architectural experiment. But that vision would not survive. The reason why the tomb's interior is so jarringly plain lies in a brutal act of rebellion that happened long after Akbar was gone.
Over 80 years after Akbar's death, during the reign of his great-grandson Aurangzeb, everything changed. A fire of rebellion that had been simmering for decades finally exploded.
So the Jats, a community of farmers, had been clashing with the empire for decades over things like heavy taxes. These uprisings were often brutally put down. Now, under Aurangzeb, whose very orthodox rule was a complete opposite of Akbar's syncretism, tensions just boiled over. In 1688, seeking revenge, a Jat leader named Rajaram chose his target very, very carefully. He went after the ultimate symbol of the empire, the tomb of its greatest emperor.
What happened next is just shocking. The rebels stormed the mausoleum, they plundered all the gold, the silver, the precious gems, they smashed the carvings, and then, in a final unimaginable act of vengeance against the empire, they opened Akbar's sarcophagus, dragged out his remains, and burned them in a bonfire.
This slide really says it all, doesn't it? The grand vision of unity and harmony completely collided with the brutal reality of historical conflict. The emperor, who wanted to leave a legacy of syncretism, had his own bones burned in an act of communal rage. The architectural symphony became a historical scar.
Which brings us right back to today and to that eerie, empty room. Knowing what happened just completely recontextualizes everything you see and feel when you walk in there.
So, that haunting emptiness? It's not a design choice. It has nothing to do with humility or minimalism. It is the physical, permanent evidence of a historical trauma. It's a chilling reminder that even the most progressive ideals of unity can be fragile and can be shattered by the conflicts that come later. The tomb is, quite literally, empty.
Today, the tomb stands as this incredibly powerful lesson in how history is written and then rewritten, not just in books, but in stone. If you ever get the chance to go, it's a place where you can stand and really feel the weight of that story for yourself.
And that leaves us with one last thought. Akbar's tomb was meant to preserve his vision forever, but instead it tells a much more complicated story, one about the clash between ideals and reality, and how even the most powerful legacies can be scarred and changed by the forces of history. It reminds us that what we see today is often just one chapter in a much longer and sometimes much darker story.